let's pivot here because sometimes stock, here's the bad news. People know if you watch the market, sometimes individual stock is a little bit too pricey. And I'm a little concerned, Emile, that our Pedri and Gavi stock, I'm going to talk about these two in tandem. I'm a little worried that our Pedri and Gavi stock is just getting a bit too expensive. Like, even though Pedri won the Copa Trophy, even though he was the best young player in the world last year, he got all those trophies, and then he got hurt. And I felt like, you watch, I'll say them by name, you watch the ESPN FC, the Bleacher Reports, you watch them on Twitter. You haven't heard anything about Pedri for a long time because he's hurt, right? And I felt like, around the world, we started to hear more about, what about Phil Foden? What about Musiala from Bayern Munich, right? And you started to hear more and more. And Pedri is back. And Pedri, even though he couldn't play, somehow got better at putting the ball in the back of the net. I know it was Aubameyang's goal, but Pedri in Xavi's system is doing what I dreamed that he would do in 2 years' time. And it feels a little bit too early, but it doesn't. Because in the last 4 matches, Pedri has had an eye for goal in a way that he did not last year. It's just he's now in better spots, better positions, and even if he's not putting the ball in the back of the net, he had that miss against Napoli, sure, but he's adding a wrinkle to his game, and that system is supporting that skill, which, again, we questioned, would Pedri have that skill? And it seems like he does. He's putting himself in better scoring positions. I said it on the earlier show last week, that Pedri is Barcelona's best player. And even in that substitute appearance, there are no questions to me that Pedri is Barcelona's best player. That said, Gavi, he's different, but he's also the same, because the ways that he excels is also, we saw in that game, by playing and pushing forward as a high interior, but also always being in the right defensive position as well.
Yes.
And just having the intelligence to cut out counterattacks, to know when to drop in when De Jong gets forward, to know when to support Busquets, again, in that rest defense, to know when you need to be involved in the attack, but also know when you're going to just be the reset. And it seems like watching Gavi, he knew exactly when to do all of those things. They said on the third goal, when he gets forward on that underlapping, I guess that's not a real term, but when he picks up that through ball from Dembele, he knew exactly when to get forward. Where just 2 possessions earlier, he actually dropped deeper than Dest and Dembele, because that move wasn't, we'll say, totally on. That space wasn't fully available. So he winds up stepping in and then gets the reset, and they go back to the left side. And Gavi's shown that he's useful as a left winger. He's useful as a left interior. And if anything, he was best as a right interior. And you could say that for the memes or whatever, that he outplayed Ilaix Moriba, of course, but Ilaix's team stunk. But it's not, these are apples and oranges. This is not the same thing. Gavi and Ilaix, unfortunately. I think Ilaix has a really high ceiling, sure, but this is a different thing. Gavi, the 6 fouls that he was able to draw, completed 23 of 25 passes. Whether you call it stats, whether you actually talk about the eye test, Gavi was magnificent, and Pedri somehow is better. And it was awesome to see those guys. I mean, they're everywhere on that field, offensively and defensively.
Yeah, those two are, they're exceptional. They are so good. And when we talk about the sort of the stock report, and because it doesn't actually cost me money to keep buying their stock, I'm just going to keep doing it, or at the very least, not take any profits, because these two are, it's tough to watch. It's tough to watch these two play the way that they're playing right now, and not just, and then you take into account their ages and not see them as just defining superstars for the next, whatever, 8 years, decade, whatever you want to say, however long they feel like doing it. And I think for both of them, I think Pedri is obviously further along. He's a little bit older, and he's just, he's here. He's
19. He's 19. He's 19 years old. Yep.
I know.
He's 19. He's a little bit older. He's 19 years old. Jeez.
Oh, yeah. No, but he's here, and he's the best player in the world. He's recognized as such. And
well, I don't know best player in the world, but he's the best player for Barcelona in this iteration of Barcelona.
I'm saying the best young player in the world.
Best young player in the world, yeah.
Yeah. And he's the best. No, he's not the best player in the world. That's not what I was saying. But he's the best young player in the world. He's the best player in this Barca side, and he's shown an aptitude for doing it against top level competition, internationally and at club level. I think the thing with Gavi is the only question I have is, it comes down to, I guess, replicating these performances and consistency and doing it against higher level opposition.
Right.
Because yeah, like the thing is, the Valencia team that they played wasn't a stern test. They did a great job. I mean, they took care of business in exactly the way that you need to against, lesser competition or out of form competition. But I mean, just the way that they're playing and the tone that they're setting for the team is vital. I mean, they are, the two of them, and De Jong's been playing really well. Just that core of the team there's a sense of stability and trust that I have when I watch them play that simply was not present early in the season. Like when Pedri was out, and particularly before Xavi's arrival, or even just before he'd fully had a chance to infuse the team with his ideas and his tactics. Just there wasn't the same sense of, even when they had the ball, even when they were holding the ball a little bit, I didn't fully trust that that they were going to do anything overwhelmingly great with it, or B, that they weren't going to somehow find some sort of calamitous outcome at the end of what should be a calm period of possession. And now when they have the ball, and these two are a huge part of it, you get the sense that someone's at the wheel. I mean, there's a strong rudder, and we're not playing with fire. We're not hoping to conjure an attack out of there's sort of an aimless move. There's very clearly a plan, and these guys at their young age are so adept at implementing it, and they know their roles, and they play them phenomenally well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a direct correlation between the fact that Barca's midfield looks utterly stable. I mean, very stable, especially if De Jong is able to have performances like he did, I think, against Napoli and the one against Valencia. There is some stability when, not say that De Jong was a scapegoat, but De Jong was arguably the only player other than those two really bad performances by Busquets that have been kind of unstable, because there has been consistency to Gavi and Pedri and Nico's performances this year, which again is a mark of how incredible these youngsters are. But as you said, to the point, what's next, right? What's next is that consistency even more every single game, right? Continuing to raise that ceiling, raise that floor, and then do it against better competition. And I will say too, hosting the show for all these years, I have, I'm going to tap myself on the back here and say that I have been very behaved on social media. I've been very behaved on the podcast. I have not been very petty, but there was a day a few months ago when I would say, generally attacked by a number of Pedri avatars on Twitter who told me that my comment that I thought that he could enhance his decision-making and ability in the final third, and I told him that I wanted to see more from him at that position, and I said he was already, he was already so useful and already so important to what Barcelona were doing. And I just, not to say I told you so, because they got what they wanted. Of course, they're Pedri fans. But, I mean, he did it. He did exactly that. It seems like Pedri knows exactly where to be and exactly how to impact scoring now. And if he's going to be that midfielder that impacts scoring I'm ready to say it, in an Iniesta-type way, if he's able to do that, and he's doing that, it's just the sky is absolutely the limit for what this midfield is capable of.